So, this is the girl you've been talking about?
Yes, it is. Yuki has been a hard one to catch. I told every lower moon to keep their eyes out for her, yet she came into contact with two and killed them both. But now I finally have her right where I need her. She's only here because of me. For only being half demon, she put up one hell of a fight. It wouldn't surprise me if she was an upper moon if you had fully turned her. I am grateful you brought her, even though you had quite a bit of resistance. You did let her escape at one point, however. If she was smart, she would have ran, but she just had to protect her lover instead. How pathetic. Her powers were pretty impressive, though.
Speaking of powers, didn't you mention she has powers similar to mine, Akaza?
Yes, I did. Now get your hand off me before I blow your skull to bits.
No need to be so hostile.
Why are you even here, Doma? As far as I'm aware, Lord Muzan only summoned Suwada and I, so I see no need for your presence.
I only came because I wanted to admire the two beautiful women in the room. Also, hearing Miss Yuki had similar powers to mine did catch my attention as well.
God, you're insufferable, Doma.
Both of you stop bickering already. Like Akaza said, only him and I have a reason to be here. I swear you two might as well be married from how much you fight with each other.
As if you're one to talk, Suwada. Every lower moon argues over where they should be ranked because of how quickly your strength grew. How long have you been a demon anyway? A year and a half?
Not my fault those demons are weaker than I am. But speak for yourself. Doma has been a demon for less time than you, yet he's one rank higher. You couldn't beat him or Kokushibo in a fight if you tried.
I think you'd be wise with what you say next. You might end up with a dismembered jaw like Doma's if you keep it up. Enough. Yuki is waking up.
Yuki slowly opened her eyes, adjusting to the dim light that was surrounding her. She moved her arms to find that she had been restrained. Looking up at them, she saw they were strong metal chains, unlike the ropes she had been tied up in who knows how long ago. Once she realized what was happening, she felt her heart skip a beat, but the sound of someone clearing their throat caught her attention.
Well now, glad to see you finally decided to rejoin the land of the living.
Yuki looked up from where she had heard the voice, and her blood ran cold. Standing before her were 4 different demons, all of them giving off different demeanors and auras. The first demon gave off confident energy, but it was one she had recognized. His pink hair and yellow eyes were hard to clear from her mind. This was the demon she saved Rengoku from back at the Mugen train. This is the demon who brought her here. She believed his name was Akaza, but she wasn't quite sure if it was correct. The second one's demeanor gave Yuki chills. She could see a curiosity behind his eyes, but she could tell that he didn't feel anything. His skin was incredibly pale, and his hair matched the part. It was blonde, nearly a platinum silver. His eyes were what caught her attention, gleaming with what seemed to be every color of the rainbow. Looking at his eyes, he seemed to be one rank higher than Akaza. The third was a female whose skin was an icy blue. Her hair was a deep navy that faded into a snowy white. She couldn't get a read on her demeanor, but she had an odd feeling that she deeply cared for others. This demon reminded her of her sister. Looking into her bright teal eyes, they only read as lower 3. She was weak compared to everyone else in the room. The final one gave off a very intense and intimidating aura. It was overwhelming how intense he was. Taking a closer look, he seemed familiar somehow. He wore a well-fitted black and white suit, as well as a white-brimmed hat. His eyes were a striking scarlet color, and they glue unlike the others. His eyes did not contain a rank, but she knew he was much stronger than everyone else in that room. Being in the presence of such intense power made her feel a fear she had never felt before. Out of instinct, she began to tug against her restraints. No matter how hard she pulled, the bonds wouldn't break, which only made her fear more. As she struggled, a laugh from one of the demons drew her attention back to them. "Well then, I'm glad to see you're finally awake. It seems your fight with Akaza drained you a little too much. You've been unconscious for quite a while." Yuki saw it was the suited man who was talking. Even though she was scared, she wanted to know why she had been brought here. "I don't care how long I've been out, nor do I care who you are. What do you want from me?" "Ooh, she's a feisty one," the blonde demon stated, walking over to inspect Yuki closer. He grabbed her roughly by the chin, moving her face from side to side with his ice-cold hand. "You really are quite beautiful with your eyes open. If you were still a human, I would have made you a part of me to live a peaceful life." Akaza walked over to the demon, grabbing him by the wrist to pull him off of Yuki. "That's enough from you, Doma. I recommend you walk out the door before I blow your jaw to bits again." "What? Can't I admire a pretty face when I see one?" "All you do is treat women like an object. Show some restraint and respect for once, you psychopath." "I can't believe you would call me that, Akaza. I thought we were friends." "I've told you many times, we are not friends." "Like I said, married couple," the female demon said with a smirk. "Shut up! Enough, all of you," the suited demon shouted as he turned his gaze back to Yuki. "As for you, all I need is a little bit of information. Give it to me without resistance, and I'll let you leave here without a scratch. Keeping that information to yourself, however, will result in a pretty painful punishment." Yuki glared up at the man, her eyes beginning to flicker from the anger building up inside of her. "I don't know who you are, and frankly, I don't care. Whatever you want from me, I'm not going to give it to you." "Even after all this time, you can't even recognize my face and voice. How disappointing. You wouldn't even have your powers if it weren't for me. I gave you the gift of immortality, but you can't accept who I am. Or maybe you don't want to accept it. You don't want to accept the fact that I was the one to kill your family that day." You killed my family?" she muttered, her voice breaking from the anger and sadness flowing into her mind. Her eyes filled with terror as she looked up at the man in front of her. "That means—" The man laughed, seeing how scared she had gotten. He displayed a wide grin that was filled with malice as he stared her down. "Do you finally realize who you're dealing with?" "Kibutuji." Tears were welling up in her eyes as she stared up at the demon who killed her family. She couldn't tell if they were tears of sadness or tears of anger. All she knew was that she now knew what he was after. Kibutsuji took a step back from Yuki, inspecting her trembling form from afar.
That's much better. Watching you tremble with fear gives me that feeling of satisfaction I haven't felt in centuries. I think you know what I want from you.
I know exactly what you want, she stated, turning her gaze down towards the ground. She swore that she would never tell anyone about the blue spider lily. Not even Kibutsuji if she were to face him. Recalling the pledge she made a few years ago, she turned her gaze back up to Kibutsuji, her eyes filled with defiance. But I'll never tell you that secret. Kibutsuji's eyes went dark hearing her statement. He quickly rushed towards Yuki, grabbing her tightly by the throat and beginning to squeeze.
God, I remember doing this to your mother like it was yesterday. Watching the life drain from her eyes was great, but things are different for you. I could hold you like this for days, weeks, even months, and you'd never die. Just trapped in an endless cycle of pain until I let go. Now, tell me everything about the blue spider lily.
Yuki was gasping for air, but she didn't care. Through choked breaths, she shouted at Kibutsuji. I'll never tell you. I'll take that secret to my grave. Kibutsuji was growing angrier by the minute and had begun to raise a hand to strike her, but he soon felt someone grab his wrist. He looked back to see it was Suwata holding him back. This isn't working, she calmly stated, lowering Kibutsuji's hand to his side. This is why you called for me, remember? Kibutsuji's eyes softened as he let go of Yuki's neck. She began to cough and gasp for air, but could feel that Kibutsuji's rage extinguished from the female demon's touch. Kibutsuji looked to the demon, a slight worry crossing his features.
Are you sure you want to deep dive, Suwata? You know how much energy it drains from you.
I'll be fine, Lord Muzan, she reassured. You called me here for this reason and knew I would be okay with the consequences. This was the last resort option, and we are now at that last resort. She isn't going to give you what you need. It's time for us to take drastic measures. Kibutsuji sighed at her statement, knowing she was right. He glanced at Yuki out of the corner of his eye, but looked back to Suwata.
Fine. Do you have your dream serum ready?
Of course I do. I don't come unprepared. Suwata pulled a vial out of her pocket. The vial contained a cerulean liquid that glowed under the moonlight. She dipped her sharpened nail into the liquid, letting it seep in like a syringe. Yuki watched as Suwata walked towards her, and her heart began to race. What are you doing? Get away from me! Yuki couldn't get away from her, feeling her tight grip on her head still as she dug her nail under her flesh. Yuki felt the liquid entering her body, and she quickly began to feel drowsy. As her eyes began to close, she could hear Suwata's voice fading in and out, not fully making out what she was saying. That's it, darling. Relax and go to sleep. If we can't get you to tell us on your own accord, we'll just find what we need in those memories instead.
Is it done, Suwata?
Yes, she's out like a light. She won't be waking up anytime soon.
Good. I think it's finally time we get our answers about the blue spider lily.
How fun! Can I watch?
Doma, I swear to God.
You both can. We'll only be watching from an outside perspective, unable to interact with the memory itself. All you have to do to enter is allow me to stick you with one of these. What is it? An acupuncture needle? Not exactly. It's been modified slightly. It allows me to connect right into a person's mind. The person's mind we enter wears the central point, while observers have the needle points. Once we are all connected, I can activate my blood demon art to enter her mind. Huh. I guess I don't give your blood demon art much credit. It is pretty powerful. Thank you. Now, I think it's time Lord Muzan gets the information he needs.